Hey, I'm Serenity and this is my channel, and today we're joined by Ginger and Nova. I have a very interesting video for you today. It is about what it's like when you can't come off birth control. Now, I know lately we've been seeing a lot of people on TikTok talking about how great they feel after stopping birth control after so many years. And while I think that's great and everything, I think there's another side that people are not taking into consideration when that's all you see on your For You page. I'm one of those people who cannot get off birth control. At least not right now, and not for a couple more years. So let's get into it. I've been posting on and off for about 6 years now, and when I first started this channel it was to talk about what it was like living with chronic illness and kind of give that insider's perspective, or if someone's going through the same thing I was, to talk about it. Well, most of the videos I did on that are privated now, but usually that's what I would talk about and post, and I want to bring those videos back, but definitely more matured now, very reserved in certain aspects of my life I'm willing to share. So to start, I live with chronic illnesses, and the main ones are I deal with chronic migraine. They're pretty bad. I also have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, and this is just summarizing like the top three. The biggest one is I deal with multiple different blood disorders. I have been seeing a hematologist since I was 11. I'm 20 now. I'm gonna be 21 this year, so almost 10 years. Now, with those blood disorders, there's a couple of them. I have von Willebrand's, which means I don't have enough platelet counts. I usually have low white and red blood cells. I also usually deal with anemia. And then of course I have hemophilia, which is not being able to clot properly. So from those, as you can expect, one of my biggest indicators when I first got sick was that my periods were irregular. And not only were they irregular, they were very heavy, very heavy. I could only wear overnight pads and I could bleed for 2 weeks straight. And since then, since I was 11, since we discovered all this, I have been on every birth control you can imagine. With that comes a lot of side effects. I've been on the pill for a month, and then at the end of the month it has the sugar pills. I've been on the 3 months worth of pills to hopefully stop my period for 3 months and only get it 4 times a year. I've been on the shot, and I was on the shot for a while and it worked, but then I learned that it's usually given to minorities, black and brown people, and guess what? As a Mexican, I didn't feel comfortable on it, so I got it off of it. Then recently, and I say recently, as of 3.5 years ago, I started the implant, the Nexplanon implant. I have been through pretty much every birth control. I've had every side effect. I've bled for 100 days and I've not gotten my period for months on end. And over these past pretty much 10 years, it's learning how to control my period, how to stop it, how to control it to where I currently only get it every other month for about a week, and it's still pretty heavy. And on that, it got to the point where I had to learn how to give myself at-home IVs called Factor 8. Factor 8 is a blood clotting thing, and it helps when you're bleeding to slow the bleeding down and to prevent any kind of injury. So that stuff is in my fridge most of the times. I've been through it all. And with this trend on TikTok where it's like, just get off birth control, yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree that birth control probably is harming women and their bodies. But I also think there's a flip side to it, because I've seen probably almost every influencer you can imagine talking about it, and it's mostly white people with uterus. I don't think you understand what it's like when you can't get off birth control. I currently, unless I want to get pregnant, I can't get off birth control, and that's not for another 6 to 10 years. Recently in January, I got my second Nexplanon implant after 3 years. You can see it. It's like right here. You can see it. It's gonna bruise. It's gonna scar. That's just how my body works. I scar really ugly. But you know what's scarier than birth control? An accidental pregnancy. And you know what's scarier with an accidental pregnancy that you don't wish to continue? The country of the United States and how our abortion rights have been taken away from us. So I wanted to talk about it. I eventually want to get off birth control, of course I do. But for someone that it's literally the only thing that can control my excessive bleeding and keeping me out of the hospital, what can I do? You know what I mean? And I found this really great thread on Twitter a while back, because I knew I wanted to make this video because I was getting my implant out and I saw the trend everywhere. I'm just gonna read it out to you, and it's on the screen. And this really summarizes what this trend has felt like. I also want to note that the author of this is a woman of color. So it says, my biggest ick with telling women to get off birth control is nobody is giving alternative for the girlies who have PCOS and endometriosis. It's always, you can track your cycle yourself, but can you please start listing safe alternatives to those with chronic illness? Because it isn't just about avoiding babies. A lot of people are on it for specific things. How can someone with PCOS ease their symptoms without it? How can someone with crippling endo get out of bed in the morning? How can someone with hormonal acne control their breakout? Yeah, I'm all about being natural. Just be consistent and list alternatives, please. Just don't tell ladies to immediately stop. Thank you. And then someone in that says, I agree. Without offering help, it's just judgment. And we shouldn't be judgmental with what people put in their bodies, especially when we have no idea anything else about them, which is true. I actually barely barely found out, and I've been diagnosed for years, but I barely found out because I needed the form for some trip I was going on, that I was actually diagnosed with PCOS years ago. I didn't know it until recently. There's something called Mignahara, and I'm not saying that right. It's literally a medical term. It's a medical term where you have such heavy periods, you're in danger of, when you're on your menstrual, of dying, pretty much, of bleeding out. And I've been given pills to slow my bleeding. I've been given everything. What no one is saying is, for those people with chronic illness like myself, those who have endo or PCOS, what to do. There's no alternatives. And then you got to factor in income. I've seen a lot of like alternatives or something, but it's expensive, and most insurances cover birth control. So what do you do? And I'm not here to advocate for birth control, because I think it is pretty predatory in most instances, especially that people with uteruses have to be the one that take it, and not people with penises and balls don't have to take it, even though there was a trial for that. Yes, the symptoms are horrible. I agree. And when I first got on birth control, I didn't want to take it, but then I would miss a pill and I would start spotting. I've gotten to the point, and it's taken almost 10 years, where I can control my bleeding, and thank goodness for that. But these alternatives, they're expensive, and people don't take in income and natural cycle tracking. Okay, I've never been regular. I've never, in the 10 years that I've had my period, I got it at 10. That's when my medical problems started. By 11, I was seeing a hematologist. No one has factored in when your period isn't regular, because mine isn't. It never has been regular. It changes every year. Sometimes I get my period every other month. I get it every 3 months. And guess what? That's okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I feel like this video was just a rant, and maybe that's okay. But I think we need to start factoring in, especially with these trends on TikTok when it relates to health, is that what happens when you don't take everyone into consideration. And I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, all the time you have to be super inclusive and think about every little thing. But I understand what it's like to not be able to do certain things, you know? And I understand, especially in the day and age where birth control is kind of slapped on everything as the cure for all. You know, if you have acne, if you have cramps, if you have bad bleeding, if you don't want to get pregnant, everything. And it comes with bad side effects. I totally understand. I totally agree. But I think going forward as a movement, because I'm sure the next trend is going to be, can't get off your depression medication or your anxiety medication. Just use X, Y, and Z instead. And there's no science behind it. Now, I'm not saying you can't get pregnant on birth control, because that's how my mom ended up with me. If you are on birth control and you are taking antibiotics, just know they cancel each other out, because that's how I came into this world. I think we need to be more considerate, and I think, you know, as much as I would love to join the trend of get off birth control and track your cycle and do X, Y, and Z, it's not healthy. Let me know if you want to see more of these videos of me talking about trends, especially living with chronic illness. If you want to see me talk about my journey with chronic illness and stupid things I've done. I've had some really crazy stories that have involved my illnesses. Alright, the doggo picture of the day is this picture of Clover in my bed. He still thinks my bed is his. It's not. He's not even my dog. He's my mom's. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Love you, many kisses. Don't do anything stupid, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way.